everyone. My name's Owen. For as far back as I can remember, I've been very passionate about the history of our amazing country, and over a series of videos on YouTube, I'm going to give you some thoughts about some heroes of mine in our history who've been an influence on my life and who I've respected. The first person I'm going to talk about today is probably not known by many people who are not interested in our aviation history, but he joined the Royal Air Force as a young man, as an engineer. He was then trained as a pilot, and he was obviously a very bright man, I would say probably even a genius. And if he'd been listened to before World War II, then the Royal Air Force would probably have been equipped with jet aircraft like the Gloucester Meteor in the Battle of Britain in 1940, instead of 4 years later in 1944. And the significance of that is, of course, that they'd be flying aircraft that is something like 200 miles an hour faster than the German fighters that came across south of England at that time. And they would have been decimated because the meteors would have swooped down on them, engaged them, shot them down, and then zoomed away without even a dogfight, because they wouldn't have been able to catch them, even if they'd seen them coming, which they probably wouldn't have done. And of course, most of you will know I'm talking about Frank Whittle, who after the war was knighted and became Air Commodore Sir Frank Whittle. And when he was a young man at Cranwell, at the RAF College at Cranwell, as part of his homework, as a young man, when he was studying at Cranwell at the RAF College in Lincolnshire, he wrote out in full the theory of a jet engine, which nobody in England at that time knew anything about, although the Germans were working on something similar. And he just had a very simple idea as an engineer that instead of building a compressor to force air into a piston-engined aircraft, why not use the compressor to force the air out of the back of the aeroplane and provide thrust? And it was as simple as that. And he wrote it all out, he did the calculations, he did everything in his thesis, which was ignored by the RAF authorities at Cranwell. And it wasn't until he got to a fighter squadron that his CO put it up to the Air Ministry, who again knew nothing about it, and passed it on to Farnborough, where an expert there said, oh no, it's totally impractical. So once he'd started earning money as an RAF officer, he founded his own company, Power Jets. He built a working model of the engine, obviously much later, just a couple of years before World War II, and then people started to take an interest, and Rolls-Royce helped him to develop an improved version, and eventually an aircraft powered by a jet engine flew, ironically enough, from RAF Cranwell in 1942. And as I say, then led to the RAF or Gloucester Aircraft Company making a wonderful aeroplane called the Meteor, which was issued to the squadrons in September 1944, just in time for them to be able to intercept the V1 and Doodlebug drones. And even a greater tragedy than that, I've actually seen reports of a German engineer in a similar line of work who invented the first German jet engine, saying after the war that if Hitler had known that the RAF had an aeroplane in 1940 that could do 500 miles an hour, World War II would probably have never started. And that's the tragedy of Sir Frank's story. So, thanks for listening, and I hope over the coming weeks I can come up with some more interesting things for you that you might like to watch.